Hey, what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with this week's My Two Cent video, where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion. And we got 7 for this week to cover, so why don't we get started with this week's My Two Cent video. We'll start off with the first one, and this one has to do with Monolith Soft, the studio that brought us the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Now, Monolith is certainly becoming a big, first-party studio for Nintendo that has produced, up to this point, pretty much the Xenoblade Chronicles series, with the first one, Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii, especially during the whole Operation Rainfall situation. Not to mention, it got ported over to the new Nintendo 3DS. Of course, also Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is considered sort of a cult hit on the Wii U, even though the Wii U wasn't a huge success. And then, of course, the recent release of the 2017 release of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which did very well, and I certainly enjoyed the game, even though when playing it in portable mode, the visuals kind of really do take a hit, which is unfortunate for a game like that. Well, recently it seems as though that Monolith Studio may be gearing up for their next project, as it's been reported that they're looking to start hiring some people. From an article from Nintendo Enthusiasts, they are stating, quote, and according to what they're saying is that Takahasa, if I'm saying the name correctly, apologize if I'm not, #1 production development team at Monolith Software has put out a hiring call for a game that's recently entered development. This is exciting news that this is the team that has built every Xenoblade game. That could mean Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Xenoblade Chronicles X2, or a brand new Xeno game in the works. Aside from the likes of Pokemon, you can easily argue that Xenoblade has been the premier RPG franchise for the Nintendo platform. Xenoblade was a resounding breath of fresh air on the Wii, and later the new 3DS port was well deserved. Xenoblade Chronicle X found its own niche and fan base on the Wii U. Then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 sold so well on the Switch that it's warrant a full-blown standalone expansion pack. Financially speaking, cranking out another game in the franchise is probably the safest thing Monolith Soft could do at this junction. However, Monolith Software is also currently working on a brand new fantasy action RPG IP with some Western games design sensibility. So no matter where you are at Monolith Soft, it has to be a very interesting time to be employed there. So it's kind of interesting that Monolith is starting to hire some new employees to work on their next project. Exactly what it could be remains to be seen. Some could point to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which certainly is a possibility. I could definitely see that as being the safe bet as the next game that they're working on. Some could point to Xenoblade Chronicles X2. I mean, obviously there are a lot of people that did enjoy Xenoblade Chronicle X, not to mention there are those who would like to see it port over to the Nintendo Switch. And while I think the developers made some comments how it could be difficult to bring it over to the Switch, we've seen a lot of Wii U ports make their way over to the Nintendo Switch lately, so I wouldn't rule out the possibility that a port of Xenoblade Chronicle X could happen, or an actual sequel to Xenoblade Chronicle X. But it could also mean they may be hiring people to work on perhaps this new fantasy action RPG that supposedly that they are working on currently at this time, though. I certainly would be open to the idea of them doing a brand new IP, and I'm very curious to see how this fantasy action RPG turns out, and I'm looking forward to it and hopefully seeing that it comes to the Nintendo Switch. Either way, overall, obviously they're hiring new people, and I'm really excited to see what exactly they're going to work on. Again, I could see the safe bet as Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but I wouldn't rule out maybe a Xenoblade Chronicles X2, or then perhaps maybe revealing this action RPG, this new action RPG that IP that they are working on. Time will ultimately tell, but overall, great that they're hiring, and hopefully we'll see more of this project soon at some point. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this has to do with Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch, as there apparently was some confusion earlier on regarding crossplay on the Switch version of Fortnite. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at a bit of a confusion that has came out regarding Fortnite, specifically for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm going to be honest with you though, I'm not really a Fortnite fan or anything like that. I got nothing against the series or anything like that. I don't have an issue with any for those who enjoy it though. Hell, I don't even have an issue of it being on the Nintendo Switch. If there's an audience for it, that's fine and all. It's just that Fortnite just isn't a game that interests me as much. That said, I won't deny the game's popularity and so forth, although I won't also deny the fact that it has competition, especially with the arrival of Respawn's Apex Legends, to be exact. But one of the things about Fortnite, especially last year when we learned that not only the game was coming to Nintendo Switch, was there was a little bit of a controversy regarding, at least with the PS4 version of Fortnite, over the issue of crossplay, and that got some gamers a bit upset because it felt like Sony was kind of, being very stingy about it though. Eventually they kind of backed out on it though, although that's not to say they're fully embracing cross-platform. Or crossplay, although they're taking a different approach compared to how Nintendo and Microsoft are, which they seem to be more open about it and more okay about it though. And earlier this week, it was later learned that Epic Games was going to change some of their way of how matchmaking in terms of cross-platform, where they've now put the Switch with those who play Fortnite on, say, mobile devices and so forth. This led to the impression, though, that Epic was dropping crossplay for Fortnite, particularly on the Nintendo Switch, and I can see how some might have been upset about this, considering the push to get crossplay onto the PS4 last year with the whole controversy surrounding that. Well, it turns out to be there may have been a little bit of confusion to this, though, as it was first reported on IGN, and then it was later clarified that may have not been the case, although IGN and other sites gaming sites had to re-clarify their statement on this. In an article from Game Radar, it is reported, in this article, it's reported by the following. Fortnite Update V8.10 has sparked a bit of confusion. On top of adding hamster balls and one-shot weapon vending machine, the update made some changes to the way Fortnite Battle Royale crossplay is handled. When the PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch players were previously grouped together, PS4 and Xbox One players are now in one group, while Switch and mobile players are in another. This means Switch players will automatically matchmake with mobile players and other Switch players. However, it doesn't mean Switch players can no longer play with PS4 or Xbox One folks. To do so, they just need to party up, similar to the way mobile and PC players will only play with each other if they're in a cross-play party. The motivating factor behind the change was unlocking optimization potential, allowing us to run more playlists during more hours of the day, while supporting more data center locations, Epic said in the patch notes. In other words, Switch and mobile Fortnite players now have their own server ecosystem because, presumably due to the player population or the in-game performance. It's reported that supposedly Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch runs at 30 frames per second, while I believe the other versions, particularly I think PS4, Xbox One, and PC runs I think at a 60 frames per second, and supposedly it might create some disadvantages from what I've heard. It's a more effective way to put them together rather than lump Switch in with PS4 and Xbox One. We expect an on average better per game experience for both mobile and Switch players, Epic says. The article says, quote, just to be safe, the person who wrote this article said, I reached out to Epic for clarification, but Switch players have reported playing with PS4 and Xbox One folks just fine after the update. So if you play Fortnite on Switch, you can rest assured that yes, you can still party up with your PS4 and Xbox One friends. He also later put out another update saying, Epic confirms that you can party up with players on other platforms and they can all play together. No changes there. So apparently it seems as though that crossplay is still on the Nintendo Switch for Fortnite. It's just now it's being done differently. Instead of being, is basically, at least according to what Game Radar is saying, it looks like you're not going to be lumped together with with PS4 or Xbox One. The Switch will have their own ecosystem, but you can still, supposedly you can basically just party up or set up like a crossplay party in order for that to happen. So at the very least, it doesn't mean that crossplay is gone from Fortnite though. It's just going to be done a bit differently though. Whether you think that's good or bad, that's going to depend on your view. Again, I'm not a Fortnite player, but it is nice to know that at least there has been some clarification on this, because obviously some people got the impression that crossplay was disabled on Fortnite for the Nintendo Switch, but it sounds like it's still going to be there. It's going to be done a little bit differently than it was in the past. So overall, great that this was kind of cleared up. Great that at the very least, though, that crossplay is still available for those who are playing Fortnite, especially on the Nintendo Switch, though. And honestly, again, that's up to the developers to decide whether they want to add crossplay or not to their games, though. But I don't have an issue or a problem if a developer wants to add crossplay or anything like that. I think some might have been disappointed if it turned out, if Epic were to really disable crossplay on Fortnite, especially for those who are playing the game off of the Nintendo Switch. But good that this was at least clarified, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with a bit of a controversy surrounding Devil May Cry 5, and it has to do with a censorship, or at least a scene being censored in the game, at least for the West, particularly on the PS4 version. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My True Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a bit of a controversy that kind of has emerged with Devil May Cry 5, particularly the Western release on the PS4. And this has to do with a bit of possibly some censorship in a way. Now, I've been playing Devil May Cry 5 for a bit though, and while I haven't gotten to a review on the game yet, I'm hoping to get one soon though. I would say my time with the game so far right now is that, to me, I look at it as the third best Devil May Cry game that Capcom has put out. I still think the first one and the third one are held with high regards, but I definitely will rank this as the third best Devil May Cry game out there though. And I'm glad, supposedly it's doing well in the UK, as I think it took the #1 spot in one of the weekly charts over there. So I'm glad the game is doing well, and it's certainly getting a lot of positive buzz. That said, it seems as though the game also has ran into a little bit of a controversy, mainly in the lines of censorship, as supposedly there's a scene that was kind of altered for the Western release over here, and interestingly enough, it seems to be only on the PS4 version, as supposedly I haven't heard any reports of it on the PC or the Xbox One at this time. In an article from, if I can get it out, an article from Screen Rant, they are reporting that the Devil May Cry PS4 version is weirdly censored. It says, and I quote, "Players have noticed something different with the PS4 release of Devil May Cry 5. The critical success was released on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation, but only one of the 3 releases has some content weirdly censored in its Western release. The first came to light in a YouTube video which highlighted creative use of lens flare by the teens behind the game. Devil May Cry 5 features a number of mature scenes ranging from lots of gore to some trademark nudity. This is nothing new for the series, which has always been provocative since its inception. However, the fact that this lens flare issue appears only present on the PS4 PlayStation version that was released in the West seems to suggest that Sony's relative new policy has censored Devil May Cry 5. YouTuber Naughty Game 2 has released a video showing off alleged difference between the Western release of Devil May Cry 5 and the Japanese release on the PlayStation. It appears to show that the Japanese release leaves Trish naked reared uncensored, while the Western release has had a more tactical approach to the subject matter. Excuse me. There's some tactical use of lens flare as the light ricochets off Dante's motorcycle to blur out Trish's posture. It also worth noting that this censored Devil May Cry 5 cutscene does not receive the same treatment in the PC or Xbox One release of the game, letting fans speculate that this is likely because of Sony's policy that this has occurred. Though it's not known whether it was Sony's idea or Capcom's initiative when it came to censor Devil May Cry 5 footage. However, the former has gotten into some controversy recently when it approached what gets put on its online marketplace and what material gets cut from certain titles from the release. So it's likely that is the driver, that's the one driving this. The fact that the Japanese version is different from the Western version is also causing more confusion amongst players. Another incontroverty, if I'm saying this incorrectly, with this censorship is the fact that a later scene in the game where Lady is naked has been left intact without any interference. This approach to the degree of nudity that is acceptable to Sony isn't very helpful. It's unclear which part of Trish's nakedness was appropriate since a similar scene with Lady was not touched at all. There has been no comment from Sony or Capcom about this matter yet, but it will be interesting to see how this evaluates justification or explaining to the masses. Now, I haven't gotten far into this point, so I have to see the scene myself before I can make a decision whether I think this was censored or not. But if this is true, if what is being reported is absolutely true, I think it's a little strange that Capcom or Sony is doing this, though. Well, I understand it is Capcom's game and they can decide whether they want to censor this or not. And while I understand this is Sony's policy, though, I think it's kind of ridiculous if this is true that they are doing this and all, particularly with this just one scene, considering the fact that the game is M-rated, though, so it just seems a little odd that they would do this. I mean, if it stays well within the M-rated range, I don't see why they have to censor this scene or not. And if it was Sony doing this, though, this kind of flies into the face of, or basically this might not sit well with a lot of gamers because many are concerned that Sony might censor, say, the upcoming release of CD Projekt Red Cyberpunk 2099, where for those who may have remember playing their last game, The Witcher 3, there was certainly nudity in that one, and many fear that Sony could censor that one as well. So I don't know whether it's Capcom or Sony, though, but I do think it's a little bit weird that this is in the game, though. Am I losing sleep over it? Not really, but I do think that if the game is M-rated, though, and it stays well within the M-rated M-rated realm, I do think it's a little ridiculous that they are censoring this scene in particular and so forth, considering that we've had games like Witcher 3 Wild Hunt that has nudity in there, but that still stayed well within the M-rated realm and so forth. So overall, I think if this is true, if this is part of Sony's policy, or if Capcom did this, I think it was kind of stupid for them to do this. Am I losing sleep over it? No, but I still think it's stupid for them to censor the PS4 version of Devil May Cry 5 like that, where the other versions, at least in the West, aren't. And no word whether those versions will be censored or not. But knowing this is PC we're talking about, and the game's released on the PC, even if they do censor it in the West and they do that for the PC version, I'm sure there are going to be some out there, including modders, that will find a way around it, though. Hell, I've seen modder show a nude version of Claire Redfield and Ada Wong on the Resident Evil 2 remake for the PC, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do something like that for Devil May Cry 5. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with the possibility that we might see an announcement for, say, Borderlands 3, or even possibility of a port of a Borderlands game to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My True Scent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at what appears to be a tease that we could be hearing some Borderlands information, particularly Borderlands 3, and maybe a port to the Nintendo Switch, though. Now, to me, Borderlands, as far as the first-person shooters series goes, remains a favorite of mine, though, and there are several first-person shooters I like, from games like Doom, Wolfenstein, to say the Conduct, if I'm saying the name correctly, that was released on the Wii back in the days, though. But Borderlands has always kind of held a place in my heart for the series. It's one where I like the whole idea of the looter shooter concept, and I feel like out of all the looter shooters games out there, Borderlands still remains at the top, along with the cast of characters, the art style in the game, and of course the whole RPG and first-person shooting mechanics, though. I'm kind of a big fan on that, though. And as much as I enjoyed the series, though, I'm very mixed from the developers Gearbox, though. This is a studio that pretty much is notoriously famous from the release of Duke Nukem Forever, and we all saw how much development hell that game went into, and look where it ended up, to basically the infamous Alien Colonial Marines, that debacle of a mess, and the fact that its CEO, Randy Pitchford, still defends this game to this day, which is one of the reasons why the Borderlands series I'm torn with. I like the series, but I don't like the developers, Gearbox, especially after what they pulled with Alien Colonial Marines. Well, it seems as though up to this point, we've always had tease about Borderlands 3 and all that stuff, and every time we get the tease, though, it turns out to be at the end they don't announce it or anything like that. Well, it seems like we're in this year with another tease of possibly that we could be getting some information about Borderlands 3. Not only that, a possibility of Borderlands coming to the Nintendo Switch. The first one, in an article from, let's see if I'm saying that, Ars Technica, Arstechnica, I apologize if I'm not saying this correctly, they are reporting basically that they're reporting that it's possible we could be hearing about Borderlands 3. They said, here at Arts, we're usually reluctant to write stories about the mere announcement that yet another announcement of a video game is coming soon. But we'll make an exception today for apparently a news about Borderlands 3, the long-expected continuation of the popular shooter series that has been missing in actions for years now. The latest hint that the sequel is actually finally ready to be shown off is a single tweet from the official Gearbox account. It shows the cel-shaded highway sign in a very Borderlands-style desert with the word March 28, Boston, Massachusetts written on it. That info corresponds to the time and place of PAX East, where Gearbox just happens to be hosting a main theater show at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on March 28. The presentation promises never before seen reveal, exclusive, and surprise according to the public schedule listing, which is pretty suggestive in and of itself. And if that wasn't enough, the highway sign features in the tweet is for Exit 3. It's also said, go ahead, get the Half-Life jokes out of your system right now. Not only that, Nintendo Enthusiast is pointing out that Borderlands 2 might have been teased by Gearbox as well. According to them, they're writing, quote, everyone and their mothers is expecting a Borderlands 3 announcement during PAX East. That was after Gearbox set the internet ablaze with a teaser image that all but confirmed this, and it seems they're not quite done teasing us yet. The following tweet by the studio features a somewhat blurry image. Fan will recognize Maya, M-A-Y-A, overlooking the shrine in Bloodshot Ramparts. This can only mean one thing, Borderlands 2, and the tweet basically says, time to tease another game for PAX, and this was posted on March 14th. But why would Gearbox be teasing this? The only logical conclusion is a Switch port for the 2012 shooter. It also makes for a good side reveal along with the third mainline title. Keep in mind that this generation of consoles got a remastered Borderlands 2 already as part of the Handsome Collection. This released before the Switch launch, though. Is this a tease only for the second game, or could we get a complete collection? So we don't know about that. So I'm kind of approaching with caution on this one, though. Part of me wants them to announce a Borderlands 3, but part of me also knows that we've kind of been down this road before. They've always teased, the people have always asked for Borderlands 3, and in the end they don't really show it off or anything like that, whether it was just early in development or not. But until there's an official confirmation on that one, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. Maybe they'll announce it, but who knows if they will or not. As far as Borderlands for the Nintendo Switch, I remember seeing a couple years ago there was a push. Someone asked on Twitter to Randy Pitchford, and he said, let's see 1 million tweets and then we'll see what happens. I wasn't buying it or anything like that. I had my doubts on that one as well. Now, is it possible they could bring Borderlands 2 over to the Nintendo Switch? Yeah, it is still a possibility, and I would definitely be down with that, don't get me wrong. But even if they do, I do wonder, is it going to be, or we're going to get if it does happen, are we going to get a physical copy? Is it going to run well on the Nintendo Switch? Will it contain all the DLCs or anything like that? And would it make more sense for them to bring like the Handsome Collection over to the Nintendo Switch rather than just simply doing just Borderlands 2 only? I mean, after all, Skyrim was released on the Nintendo Switch, but that also had all the DLCs in it as well. So I'm a little cautious about this one. So until we hear an official confirmation, at this time, I'm taking this one with a grain of salt. That said, that's not to say I wouldn't be happy if they announced Borderlands 3, or if they announced a port of Borderlands 2 coming to the Nintendo Switch. Although, as a side note, I would prefer the Handsome Collection instead. I would love to see that with all of its DLCs poured over to the Nintendo Switch instead. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 5. And this one has to do with the possibility that a Castlevania Anniversary Collection could be happening. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 5 of our My True Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at a possibility we could be getting a Castlevania Anniversary Collection, and supposedly it could be a multi-platform release. Now, Konami at this point has been become a joke for a lot of people, as we've seen the whole, pardon my language on this, the whole fuck Konami campaign, because a lot of their recent decisions, from canceling Aulx Studios, moving away to the Pico machines, if I'm saying the name correctly though, to the release of Metal Gear Survivor, which honestly did not sit well with a lot of people and all that stuff. But recently we've seen them dip their toes on releasing several of their IPs, or re-releasing old games for new systems and so forth. One of those, of course, last year, as we saw, was the release of what was basically called, if I'm saying the name correctly though, Castlevania Requiem. That was released last year for the PS4. That contained Redondo of Blood, and of course what many consider the favorite Castlevania game of all time, and I think it's one of my favorite of all time on there as well, Symphony of the Night. Although at the time it turned out that Sony was funding those games, and it's been reported that there's currently no plans, or at least as far as we're aware of, that will be released on other systems, which somewhat is unfortunate, but I'm not losing sleep over it. Not to mention the Castlevania series on Netflix, which is awesome in my opinion, and I would definitely recommend it if you haven't got a chance to see it on Netflix, both season 1 and season 2, and I'm looking forward to season 3. Well, apparently it seems like, at least according to an Australian rating board system, we might be getting supposedly a collection, a Castlevania Anniversary Collection, and it could be a multi-platform release, which means we could also see it come to the Nintendo Switch, possibly. In an article from Nintendo Life, it is reported that Video Game Rating Board Australian classification has potentially spilled the beans on a brand new Castlevania project. A new rating suggests that Castlevania Anniversary Collection is soon to be released as a multi-platform game. Of course, no such game has been officially announced at this stage with that title. Last year saw Castlevania Requiem on other platforms, which include 2 games in one, but Konami has previously stated they have absolutely no plans to release it on other systems. That was on the Switch though. This sounds like it could be something new entirely. The rating shows that it has gained a PG clarification and features mild fantasy themes and violence, so no surprise there then. It's worth noting that the multi-platform release doesn't necessarily mean that Switch would be included. There have been plenty of times over the last couple of years where multi-platform has actually meant PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Still, the recent Belmont content in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has us hoping that the new Castlevania games could arrive on the Nintendo Switch. So if this is true and that we're getting an anniversary collection of Castlevania, that certainly would be nice, and I do hope that the games come to the Nintendo Switch. As far as what the games could be, well, I mean, they could be, it could be actually a port of maybe the Anniversary Collection may contain like a collection of 2D Castlevania games. Maybe they will contain all the 2D ones that have been out, including maybe the ones on the NES, Super NES, maybe the Game Boy Advance, the Nintendo DS versions though, although it will be interesting how they would have to rewrite how to handle those, considering those use both the dual screens, but I'm sure they could figure that out. Other possibility could be the 3D Castlevania games, and I'm not talking about Castlevania 64, although I didn't hate that one as much as some out there did, but possibly maybe the 2 PS2 Castlevania 3D Castlevania games. I think Lament of Innocent, if I'm saying the name correctly, apologize if I'm not, and Curse of Darkness, they were released. I think both of those were released on the PS2, while only one of them was released, I think Curse of Darkness, on the Xbox. So, or it could be the Lords of Shadow games as well. Those could be maybe be ported over as well. So either way, I am very curious to see exactly if this rumor is true, whether we are getting the Anniversary Collection or not. So, though, but we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we'll hear an announcement soon, though. But in the meantime, though, I'm just waiting here patiently for the upcoming release of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which supposedly will come out sometime in 2019. Hopefully, I've been hearing summer 2019, but we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I'm hoping this is true, that we're getting an Castlevania Anniversary Collection. And for me, my fingers are crossed that it comes to the Nintendo Switch, considering how well the Switch is currently doing right now. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 6. And this one has to do with some, it looks like we're getting a lot of, apparently we got some big announcements of Sniper Elite games, including 2 that are coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 6 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at what apparently is a whole bunch of Sniper Elite games have been announced yesterday, or although on Thursday. This video is will be going up on Saturday when I get the chance. So, and 2 of them are basically coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, when it comes to World War II shooters, to me, the Sniper Elite games are kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I just like the pace of the game. I like it's a little bit of taking your time and targeting your shots as well. And it's a sort of a series I sort of have gotten into more and more, along with the spin-off, which is the infamous Zombie Army trilogy as well. Well, apparently Rebellion, the developers of the Sniper Elite series, certainly has announced a couple of Sniper Elite projects in development, with 2 of the games coming to the Nintendo Switch, and a new entry in the series, and even a VR one as well. From an article posted on, let me get it up, on comicbook.com, they are reporting, and this is what they're saying, quote, "There's not many games or series on the market like Sniper Elite, which allows you to mess around in an open world playground and miraculously, if I'm saying this game correctly, slaughter enemies in a one-by-one fashion. There are a lot of people that enjoy Sniper Elite that don't enjoy most other shooters on the market thanks to its slow pace and freedom. And given that Rebellion doesn't flood the market with release in the series means a lot of gamers always craving more, but this won't be the case for much longer. The UK developer and publisher announced today not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Sniper Elite projects, including the next mainline entry, which will presumably be Sniper Elite 5. Here's a rundown of the 4 projects. Sniper Elite V2 Remaster, or I think that's version 2, will bring 1945 Berlin to current platform with stunning new visuals and a host of new features. Sniper Elite 3 Ultimate Edition on Switch introduces Carl's, C-A-R-L-S, breathtaking North African adventure to the Nintendo platform for the first time ever. A new standalone Sniper Elite game for VR devices is being developed in partnership with independent British studio Just Add Water, known for their works on Oddworld and Gravity Crash series. The next major title in the Sniper Elite series, following the footstep of the widely acclaimed Sniper Elite 4, is being worked on. Sniper Elite V2 Remaster is poised to launch on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch sometime later this year, and will take players back to Berlin to revisit the game's campaign that is set in the final moments of World War II. The remastered version will offer enhanced graphics, 4K resolution with HDR display, a new photo mode, an expanded multiplayer, and of course all the content from the first game. Point out you can check out the trailer here. Although if you're planning to get the Switch version, I expect that you're not going to get the 4K resolution one. That one seems to be pretty obvious. Meanwhile, Sniper Elite 3 Ultimate for the Nintendo Switch will be arriving sometime this year. It will feature all the content ever released for the title ported over to the Nintendo console. As for the VR game, a full reveal will be revealed later this year, while more details on Sniper Elite 5 won't be coming out until 2020, which likely means it's a next-gen game, though. So, for me, it's nice to know that Sniper Elite version, Sniper Elite V2 and Sniper Elite 3 are coming to the Nintendo Switch. I played a little bit of Sniper Elite 3, and I did enjoy the game, especially on the PS4, so it's nice to see this game come to the Switch as well. The idea of a sniper, bringing Sniper Elite on the go is certainly nice indeed. I'm not a VR person, but it is nice that they're branching the series and trying it out for VR. I'm very curious to see how the infamous kill cam is going to work, especially with VR. And the fact that they're working on the next entry in the Sniper Elite series is certainly nice, though. Mostly likely it's going to be called Sniper Elite 5. It'll be interesting which, if it's going to be based on World War II, which is more than likely, which campaign that will be part of, though. So overall, it's nice that they certainly are announcing a bunch of Sniper Elite games. I'm looking forward to some of them. I'm hoping Sniper Elite version 2 and Sniper Elite 3 sell well on the Nintendo Switch, because I would love to see if they could pull it off, if it can be pulled off. Sniper Elite 4 come to the Nintendo Switch. To hell, I would be open if they brought Zombie Army Trilogy over to the Nintendo Switch. That would be nice. If they could do that, though, that would be great as well. And if it's possible, like with Sniper Elite 4, if they could bring 5 over to the Switch, that would be great if they could pull that off. So overall, a whole bunch of Sniper Elite games have been announced on Thursday. I'm definitely looking forward to Sniper Elite 3 and version 2 for the Nintendo Switch, and I'm glad that another entry in the Sniper Elite series has been announced. Although it's not being called Sniper Elite 5 at this time, I have a feeling that that's what's going to be called, Sniper Elite 5. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 7, our final part, and this has to do with the fact that the Switch Pro controller look like it's going to be used for the upcoming streaming service that Google is offering to, I think they're through Google Chrome, for their upcoming, video game streaming service, similar to what Xbox Game Pass is. So, take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 7th and final part of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the announcement that Google, or at least their upcoming Project Stream, is supporting the Switch Pro controller. Now, last year, it was reported, though, that Steam, I believe it was last year or back in 2017, that it announced that Steam games will be able, depending on what game you're playing, that you will be able to use the Nintendo Switch Pro controller for the games, for any games you play off, when you buy off of Steam and so forth. And supposedly, at least according to what Nintendo Enthusiast is reporting, though, when Valve announced this back in, I think, May of last year, they're saying that over 500,000 Pro controllers were registered in the service, although chances are that may have changed over time, though. Well, now it seems as though with Google preparing to make, supposedly, their announcement into gaming, which supposedly they are probably going to announce it at GTC next week, it appears as though they have now opened the door for not only the Pro controller, but the Joy-Cons as well could be supportive of their upcoming gaming system. In an article from, quote, 9 to 5 Google, it's reported, though, that Excitement is building as Google's big game announcement at GTC 2019 next week approach. An interesting, potentially related development has cropped up now in Google Chrome, Chrome, with the browser picking up native support for the Nintendo Switch controller. While there's still some mystery involved with Google's GTC announcement, like what sort of hardware will be involved, one thing we're relatively confident in seeing is a bigger and better version of last year's Project Stream. Using Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Project Stream showed us that AA games can occur right in the Chrome browser, including support for wired gaming controllers. It seems Google is continuing to ramp up native support for more game controllers, according to a new commit COMMIT we discovered last night, also spotted by a person by the name of Owen Williams in CHROMIUM Garrett source code management. Apologize if I'm saying the name correctly. The commit title, improved support for Nintendo Switch gamepads, makes its goals clear. For last year or so, Google Chrome, CHROME, apologize I'm not saying the name correctly, has had early support for the Switch Pro controller on Linux, but this new code change takes things much further. Instead of just providing a better experience for the Switch Pro controller, Chrome will soon have support for the Joy-Cons, both individually and as a pair. This even includes the Joy-Con charging grip via USB port. Chrome support is enabled through the standard Gamepad API, meaning all web developers will be able to take advantage of Nintendo Switch controllers in their games and applications with little to no extra work. As the commit is still being labeled as work in progress, we may not be able to start using our Switch controller in the browser until at least Chrome 75, if not later. According to the code, some of the work was made possible, at least simpler, thanks to reserved or reverse engineer work done by DEKU Nukem. From this, we can assume that Google is not working with Nintendo on official support for the Switch controller in Chrome. So, obviously, with them gearing up for their announcement, they're basically adding as many support for third-party controllers or controller support for their upcoming gaming platform, their streaming service to be exact. And it's kind of interesting that they're using basically the Switch Pro controller to it, as most people seem to like the controller, especially with the long battery life. So, does this mean we could see the Project Stream or something come to the Nintendo Switch? It's a possibility, though. I mean, when it was announced that Valve was allowing for Steam users to use the Switch Pro controller, it didn't automatically mean that Steam was coming to the Nintendo Switch or anything like that. But with rumors going around recently that the possibility we could see Xbox Game Pass come to the Nintendo Switch as well, it certainly makes it kind of interesting to see that perhaps this Project Stream thing could come to the Nintendo Switch too. Again, it may or may not come at all or anything like that, but it does raise that kind of possibility. As for the use of the Pro controller for this Project Stream that Google is working on, or their own gaming service, like this Netflix style approach, honestly, I'm not really against it. I'm not really against them throwing support for the Switch Pro controller or the Joy-Cons to be exact, though. I mean, whatever control scheme works, if you're going to use this service, whatever control scheme works for you, you go with the one that works for you the best. So I wasn't losing sleep over when Steam did this with using people who want to use the Switch Pro controller, and I'm certainly not losing sleep over this, though. It does raise the kind of question of what the future of gaming is going to be, with Google entering in and Microsoft pushing hard with the Xbox Game Pass. I mean, are we moving to a point where now we're just streaming our games only going forward? Which, while I understand that we are at some point that we are moving more and more towards a digital distribution level, I'm still mixed with the whole idea, because I still think like the idea of buying a physical copy and not have to be like online or anything like that. I know some people will disagree with me on that one, but I just prefer buying that physical copy though. But overall, my takeaway from this is that I'm not really shocked that if this is true, and when Google shows off their gaming service though, I'm not surprised that they're throwing support for the Switch Pro controller. I'm sure they're going to add PS4 and Xbox One controllers as well, though. And it would be very interesting to see how this streaming service works, if this is what they're aiming for, and what games will support it, to be exact. So it's very interesting, but we'll have to wait and see next week to see what their announcement is. And it's very interesting to see that they're putting Switch Pro controller in there as well. There you go. Okay, this concludes this week's My 2 Cent video. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Monolith Software hiring right now? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a sign that we'll hear a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 or Xenoblade Chronicles X2? Or do you think they're hiring for this so-called mysterious action RPG that they're working on? Or could it be something brand new or something like that? What are your thoughts about this clarification about crossplay on Fortnite though? Were you concerned that crossplay was going to be disabled for Fortnite, especially on the Nintendo Switch? Were you not concerned about this at all? Is this going to be an issue going forward? Is it not going to be an issue? What are your thoughts about the censorship, the censorship in the Western PS4 release of Devil May Cry 5? Do you think this is really a big deal? Do you think it's not a big deal at all? Do you think this is Capcom's doing? Or do you think Sony told Capcom to censor this part or anything, or something like that? Do you think this is an error? Do you think it's not an error? What are your thoughts about the possibility that Borderlands 3 could be announced at PAX? Do you think that we're finally going to see Borderlands 3? Do you think they are going to announce it? Do you think or do you don't think they're going to announce it at all? Do you think it's possible we could see a game like Borderlands 2 come to the Nintendo Switch? Do you think it will happen? Do you think it will not happen? What are your thoughts about the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, though? Are you interested in that, to be exact? Do you think it will happen? And what Castlevania games do you think they would be bringing to this Anniversary Collection if this Anniversary Collection turns out to be true? What are your thoughts about this whole bunch of announcements for Sniper Elite games that have been announced? Are you looking forward to trying out possibly this VR Sniper Elite game? Are you happy they announced Sniper Elite 5? Are you glad that they are bringing Sniper Elite V2 Remaster and Sniper Elite 3 Ultimate Edition to the Nintendo Switch? And what are your thoughts about the Switch Pro controller being used for Google Chrome, especially with their upcoming Project Stream, their streaming gaming service though? Do you think this is interesting? Do you think this is not interesting? Will you be using the Switch Pro controller for the Project Stream if the announcement turns out to be true? Do you think this Project Stream could make its way over to the Nintendo Switch? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!